Hey guys, so today we're going to be continuing our historical fiction unit in writing, but today we're actually going to be taking another step further with all the work we've been doing and putting together that thinking into drafting an essay. And again, literary writing is really just writing about a book. So let's go ahead and get started. So what are we learning to do? Today we are learning how to plan and write an introduction. What I'll be looking for you is to develop ideas by pushing your thinking and use text evidence to support your writing. So what I want to talk about is that today I want to teach you is before you write your thesis statement or the claim in your essay, essayists usually put their particular essay and the text they are writing about into context, meaning they make it make sense to whoever is reading the story. So they kind of put back out their background knowledge. You know how we do that in reading or really in any topic. We use our background knowledge, what we already know. And they write a generalization about literature or stories or life. And it's going to be a broad statement, and this will make more sense in just a little bit. So as essayists, we're going to be thinking about how we can channel the readers so they are ready for the specific point we are making. And then we're going to come up with a theme or a life lesson that can connect to almost anybody's life. So what does this mean exactly? When we are writing the introductions to our essays, we need to begin by organizing our thoughts and introducing our ideas in a thoughtful way. Think about it with a movie. You know how sometimes we see a whole scene, maybe it'll start with the view of a park or a building or a shopping mall, and then the camera will zoom in on a single character. But it's done in a way that makes sense to what the scene is really about. So that's similar to the work that we will be doing when we build on our introductions. We are kind of setting the whole scene, and then we are bringing our writing to a focus point. And as you begin focusing on your lead and how you want your introduction to go, you need to start thinking, what is my essay really about? So let's go ahead and see what's next. So how to plan and write an introduction. So we're going to be following this checklist to see how we can kind of decompose and break down all the different parts of what's expected in our introductions for today. So of course, we always want to start off with a hook sentence by grabbing the reader's attention. So we're going to be focusing on a theme from one of our historical fiction read-alouds, as we've been practicing for the last few weeks. So today you'll get a choice between any of the read-alouds that we've been reading throughout the unit, such as Star of Fear, Star of Hope, Rose Blanche, The Bracelet, or even The Butterfly. And you can think about maybe your favorite character or favorite theme you've already come up with, and you can go ahead and choose that one. But it's important that we are connecting this to real life. And remember, a theme is a life lesson. So what you're going to do is grab the reader's attention by building that connection by saying sometimes in life, or what people need to know is that, or it's important too, or even just as simple as a life lesson is. But you want to make this sentence the general part, like we said. You want to make it very broad so it can apply to anyone, and then you'll connect it to the text. So in this beginning sentence, you don't need to say the name of your text yet. You don't need to say a character's name because you're going to make it a general statement, because life lessons can apply to anybody. And I'll show you what I mean in a minute. After you do your hook sentence and introduce your theme that you want to talk about or your life lesson, you'll go ahead and introduce the text you are using by stating the book title and the author, and then you will start building your connection. How can this life lesson connect to your book? And it's simple. That's where you can start talking about your character. And then as always, you want to make sure that you are writing in complete sentences that will make sense to the reader, and they include capital letters and punctuation. So here's an example of, again, I followed this checklist, and you'll see some of the bolded text in a different color just to kind of highlight what part I was focusing on here. So let's take a look. So I again stuck with the Read Aloud Fox just because we really had that story in mind all throughout the year. That was one of our favorites. So I thought it'd be good to talk about that one here. So I wrote here, sometimes in life. So that's showing how this is kind of the life lesson I'm talking about. People may shock you. So right there is the lesson that I'm going to be, the life lesson I'll be going back to, or kind of like the theme. And then I go ahead and explain it a little bit more. Sometimes in life, people may shock you. We tend to stereotype others, but there are a few that might surprise us. In the book Fox by Margaret Wilde, they proved this idea. I could have said the book supports this theme, but I decided to say in the book Fox by Margaret Wilde, they proved this idea. We meet a character, a wild dog, who you think at first can be really vicious. But it turns out dog is a good friend and is caring. Dog is a good friend because he never gives up on his friends and he sees the good in others. Dog surprised me by being a good friend for many reasons. Another example is when he even thought Fox was a good friend and saw the good in him, even when Magpie didn't. What people need to know is that people can shock you and surprise you to be good after all. So in this introduction, you see I just wrote down some quick and short examples, but as I continue drafting this literary essay, I can go through and expand my thinking even more by providing more details and more thoughts after my introduction. And I'll be showing you some more examples of introductions, but this one here I thought was good to show you because it's simple, it's to the point. I have my hook sentence that relates right to my theme. I introduce my book. I make a connection to how my book and characters support my theme. And then I kind of give myself a good starting point to just go ahead and start writing. But today, like I've been saying, we are just simply sticking to the introduction. And it's up to you to really plan. And again, going back to the planning part, this is the part that is most important. So I'm really, really interested in seeing how you're planning your introduction before you even write it. It might take a few days this week. You don't need to get this done in one day, but it's important to really think about, okay, how am I starting my hook sentence? What book am I going to use to support my life lesson or theme? And then what are a few examples I can just simply state in this introduction? That way, when I'm writing my body paragraphs, I can explain them in more detail later on. So today, to kind of build this back to our historical fiction connection, I would like you to choose a historical fiction read aloud from our unit that you would like to write about. After selecting your book, you will revisit the text, so it's important to go back and reread it and think about a possible theme or life lesson you would like to focus on. Remember, it can be a theme you have already developed or something new you just thought of. Think about what the character learned and how the character may be changed throughout the story, and ask yourself, is this a life lesson, and how do I know? So again, just talking about introductions, they're really important to plan out. And you'll have many opportunities to go back and reread and plan and discuss what you want to put in your writing. So one more time, I just want to go through our checklist that it's going to take a little bit for us to really go back and think about how you want your hook sentence to sound. And as you are writing, it's okay if it takes a little bit of time. It's really important to go back and reread the parts of the read aloud that you selected to make sure that your details make sense. And as you're working, you can submit your work, and we'll be working on this all week. So it's okay if you're stuck or unsure. Take the time to reread your read aloud and think about your theme. That's the most important part. And then the rest will come easier as we start building those connections.